Hello, everyone, and welcome to our sixth and final lunchtime session from PRPS, Therapeutic Recreation Division. This is navigating the Nctrc certification process and internships, and I will be presented today by Robin McNeil, who's a CTRS and the Director of Credentialing at Nctrc, and a really nice person who's going to introduce herself a little later. In the meantime, I want to offer a few logistics. This is a Zoom meeting and participants will be able to unmute themselves to talk in discussions. However, when not speaking, please keep yourself muted as this will minimize any background noise. This webinar has been approved for 1.5 hours of NCTRC credit or 0.1 CEU. A code word will be displayed in the chat box during and at the end of this recording. Follow the link to the SurveyMonkey quiz, complete the quiz, and enter the code word. You will be awarded credit and a notice will be sent to your email address. Make sure you take the quiz immediately following the presentation. And with that, I am going to turn the floor over to Robin.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting us today to speak about navigating the NCTRC certification process and internships. Again, my name is Robin McNeil. I'm the Director of Credentialing at NCTRC. We're going to go through some elements of gaining certification as well as building an internship program that will be beneficial to students, as well as reviewing the updated internship requirements. So a couple of things to keep in mind when we start this session. We're going to make sure that at the end of the session, you're able to at least be able to see about 3 different requirements needed to gain professional eligibility. We're also going to review the components of the application process. And lastly, we'll talk a little bit about that idea of successfully building an internship program for your students and certainly at your facility. Just some information with regards to the session content. This information that we're going to be discussing today, it reflects the current NCTRC certification standards that were updated as of July 2021. It is the responsibility of the applicant to make sure that when they are ready to submit the application, that they are following the most updated requirements. And I would say the best place to get that information is at the NCTRC website. So just a little bit of information about NCTRC. So NCTRC, the National Council for Therapeutic Recreation Certification. We were established back in 1981, and since then have been a service-oriented organization dedicated to protecting the public and improving recreational therapy practice. Since then, we have been guided by devoted professionals, and to this day, we've actually only had 3 different executive directors. And so again, folks that come to NCTRC really have that dedication and want to make sure that what we are doing is there to protect the public. Since our inception, we have been accredited by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies since 1993. And it's important to recognize that because when an individual obtains that CTRS credential, that credential really is a marker in the sense of being a credential that has been reviewed by this commission. This commission actually takes a look at all the different credentialing organizations and deems them a credentialing organization. So we continue to be accredited by them since 1993. And one of the things that we're really proud of at this point is that we have over 19,000 individuals on our registry. That includes about 16,000 individuals that are actively certified. It includes individuals that just have to pay some back fees or individuals that need to just complete the exam to gain their certification. So again, our registry continues to grow, and over this past year specifically, we have been deemed an essential service. And so the idea of recreational therapists working with individuals during this time has been extremely important. And so we are happy to see the amount of individuals gaining their certification, because again, ultimately the reason NCTRC exists is to make sure that we protect the public. We make sure that individuals that are receiving recreational therapy services are receiving the best services from very competent individuals that have gained that credential through passing the entry-level exam, the NCTRC exam. And we are recognized as the cornerstone of the therapeutic recreation profession in North America. As of right now, we have CTRSs residing in over 15 countries. And so again, we're looking at a credential on an international basis. Individuals are looking to NCTRC to make sure they continue to meet the requirements that have been established. And I mentioned that, again, our main purpose is to make sure that we protect the safety of consumers of recreational therapy services. We want to make sure that individuals that hold that CTRS credential are those individuals that are going to continue to promote the profession as well as protect the public. And so in order to do that, individuals have to go through the certification process. And so we're going to spend some time today talking about the different NCTRC certification services. NCTRC has a program called the pre-approval process, and that process is set up for individuals that have completed coursework, and you want to make sure that that coursework meets our entry-level requirements. So folks can submit a pre-approval application before gaining their certification, just to confirm that coursework does in fact meet our NCTRC standards. We also have a continuing education pre-approval process, which allows CTRSs to submit a pre-approval of education so that they are in fact made sure that that education is going to meet the recertification requirements when it's time. So that is another option that is available for CTRSs. Next, we have our entry-level professional eligibility service, which we will talk a little bit about today, but that is the first step in gaining certification. Individuals that would like to become certified have to fulfill the professional eligibility process by submitting an application and transcripts for official review. Once an individual does meet the professional eligibility requirements, then they go on for the testing program. And our testing program is a program that is offered on an every other month basis for 1 full month. It is the NCTRC exam. And again, once an individual has met the professional eligibility requirements, they're able to go on and take that exam to gain that certification. Once you become certified, you are required to renew and recertify every year, every 5 years, and really just show that you've continued to gain additional education to improve your services. Should there be a situation where you're unable to recertify, we do have a program called reentry, which allows individuals to come back into the field within a time frame and complete the exam successfully to regain their certification. NCTRC is also involved with the discipline. And again, as we talked about, the main mission for NCTRC is to protect the public. And so in order for us to make sure that the protection is being met for the public, we want to make sure that if there are any issues of harm against the public, that is brought to our attention. So we do have a very thorough discipline process that includes individuals from the NCTRC office as well as our legal team. We also have an employer verification portal, which is available again to employers and to consumers. So when individuals do go on for recreational therapy services, the consumers are able to go to our website and confirm that individuals are in fact actively certified to be a recreational therapist. We also have that service available for employers as individuals are learning or are gaining different employment opportunities at different agencies. So employers can actually go to our website and confirm individuals have active CTRS status. And then of course, we're involved with advocacy. We want to make sure that individuals that are practicing recreational therapy all meet the requirements necessary to have that CTRS credential. And again, to make sure that those individuals are giving and providing the best services possible to the consumers. So we are advocating for that as well. And so again, we're going to talk a little bit today about the professional eligibility process. And so again, this is the first process in order to become, a CTRS. You must first be awarded professional eligibility. And then once you're awarded eligibility, you're able to go on to take the NCTRC exam. This professional eligibility status is awarded for up to 5 years. So individuals that do meet the requirements have up to 5 years to complete the exam successfully. And the other nice thing about it is that there are a couple of different ways that individuals can become eligible. One is the academic path. The other option is the equivalency path. So we will be again talking about each of these options through the presentation. The first option we're going to talk about is, of course, the academic path. This is the path that we see a lot of our applicants coming through. And so under the academic path option, you're required to have at least a bachelor's degree or higher from an accredited college or university. You would have graduated from a recreational therapy, therapeutic recreation, or recreation major. And with that, you would have also completed recreational therapy coursework. So right now, as of today in 2021, November 11th, 2021, we are required to have at least 5 therapeutic recreation courses. But moving into the new year, after January 1st of 2022, each application that is submitted will be required to have at least 6 therapeutic recreation courses in order to meet the requirements. So that is something to be aware of should you be interested in sending in an application, or if you have a colleague or a student that might be submitting an application, please make sure that that application is submitted based off that deadline, especially if they're in a scenario where they may only have the 5 required at this time therapeutic recreation courses. Again, so in the new year, we'll be requiring at least 6 therapeutic recreation courses. Along with that, we'll be also looking for supportive coursework, which is the current requirement at this time. We're looking for coursework that's specific to abnormal psychology, lifespan development, anatomy and physiology, and then just general humanities and social sciences. As long as you have the therapeutic recreation coursework and the supportive coursework completed, individuals can submit their application for professional eligibility. This is an option for individuals that you might choose to submit an application before being done with your internship. So certainly as a student, as a supervisor, if you have a student that is looking to gain eligibility, as long as they're done with their coursework, all their required courses, they can in fact submit their application for eligibility. We have folks that complete the exam during the time that they're doing their internship, which is completely fine. The only caveat to all of this is that once somebody does successfully complete the exam, they won't be awarded the CTRS credential until they have evidence sent to Nctrc that they successfully completed the internship as well as their degree was awarded. So just keep that in mind, especially as a supervisor that might be supervising an intern looking to gain eligibility with Nctrc. So then we're going to talk a lot about the internship. And so for many of you, if you are currently a supervisor or looking to do supervision of interns, I do want to make sure that we review the updated internship requirements. So as of right now, we are requiring individuals to have a 14-week, 560-hour internship. And again, this experience is really important for individuals, students especially, kind of preparing themselves for the profession. And so you want to make sure that that experience is a well-formulated experience. You want to make sure that that experience is over that 14-week and 560 hours. Certainly that it is under the supervision of you, that active agency supervisor, as well as an academic supervisor at the university. One of the things that Nctrc was able to do over the past year is really do some further research on the internships, and some of the different areas that we have seen is that because of agencies and the disruption when it comes to having interns at sites due to everything that's been going on, we have seen that the idea of a consistent or a consecutive internship may not necessarily be beneficial in all agency circumstances. So what Nctrc has done is eliminated that word, that idea of that consecutive nature of the internship. So what we're looking for is to make sure that that experience is at least 14 weeks and 560 hours. If there has to be a break in the internship because either the agency was unable to have the student there or somebody fell ill, that's not an issue in the sense of the Nctrc requirements. We just want to make sure that the student does complete 14 weeks and 560 hours. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. One of the other things to keep in mind, again, is that the agency supervisor is actively certified. And so for all of you that are going to be doing supervision or have been doing supervision of interns, you want to make sure that you are actively certified on the first day of supervision, of internship supervision. We ask that the students definitely take a look at the Nctrc website to confirm that the individual is actively certified. And you can do that at the Nctrc portal. If you go to the Nctrc website, which is nctrc.org, and at the far right part of the screen, you're going to see CTRS verification. When you click on CTRS verification, you'll be able to scroll down. Lots of great information about the portal. But if you scroll further down, you'll see the actual link to the search portal. And this is where we encourage both supervisors and students to make sure that your information is updated. So if you do have, of course, you as an active CTRS will have a certification ID number. You can go ahead and type in your certification ID number and click submit. Once you click submit, your information will appear at the bottom of the screen. And so this is a good way to make sure that individuals are actively certified, and this is what we make sure students do as well. The other thing you're going to want to keep in mind is that you've been actively certified for 1 full year. You want to make sure that you're actively certified for 1 full year before you begin supervision of an intern. So not only are you supervised for 1 full year, but you are also actively certified. So these are important elements to hold on to when you are looking to gain, go to a supervisor, or you as a supervisor, make sure that your information does appear valid and accurate on the portal. If for some reason there's any concerns or questions, please contact us at Nctrc so that we can make sure that the information is updated for the consumers, for the employers, and then certainly for the students. The next element that we want to make sure of is covered is that the active academic supervisor is also a CTRS. So they also have to possess that active status the first day of the experience. The academic supervisor should be employed at the college or the university. And of course, that individual can only serve in the capacity of the academic supervisor. We have a lot of individuals that are both in practice, that might be doing some work with the university. So you might see, you might have an opportunity where you can do agency supervision as well. And then you might be an individual that's doing some coursework lecturing at the university. But you're going to have to pick one or the other to do, which in essence means that there's always going to be 2 people supervising the experience. There are always going to be 1 agency supervisor and 1 academic supervisor. That individual cannot be in 2 of those positions at the same time. So we want to make sure that the student has 2 different individuals to make sure that they can review their experience with if there are any concerns. Next, we want to make sure, of course, that the actual internship is completed after the coursework, which, for many of you as supervisors, you already know that the students have gone through their curriculum. So you want to make sure that that is still the case. We are going to, as credentialing staff at Nctrc, we're going to make sure that that internship is posted on an official transcript. The course credit just needs to be documented during the same time that the student completed the experience. And so one thing that might be very helpful, you as a supervisor might want to have this handy for your students, is the student internship guide. This guide allows individuals to fill out the information as well as log their dates and times that were completed for the experience. We strongly encourage folks to use this document because if there is a case where perhaps, 1 week you allow the students to do maybe just 20 hours, maybe another week you decide to do 40 hours, we would see a range in hours. And so we'd love for the students to be able to document it. That way we make sure that 14 full weeks are done for at least 560 hours. So you want to make sure that you have access to this document. And this document is also going to be very helpful as we're going to talk about the job analysis in a few slides. And as I mentioned, making sure that academic credit is awarded. Again, we will take a look at that information on the transcript. For a student that might submit their application before completing their internship, they're going to be required to send in a transcript initially. But then once their academic credit has been posted to the transcript, we're probably going to require another transcript with both that academic credit posted as well as the degree. And so we just want to make sure that all of that is documented and verified so that we can complete the review and award the credential to that student. If for some reason there's been a lapse or a discrepancy in when the individual completed the internship versus when it's posted on the transcript, and that has happened, perhaps the agency was unable to have the student, complete the experience maybe during the summer, but then once it reopened, they brought the student back in the fall. So maybe the university doesn't post the grade until the fall semester, when in reality they may have posted it in the summer semester, but the student didn't finish it until the fall. We would just need a letter of documentation from you, the agency supervisor, or from the academic supervisor, just explaining that there was a discrepancy in the dates because of whatever the issue might have been. So we just want to make sure that everything aligns. The dates that the student actually says that they did the internship experience, as well as when the university awarded them credit. So these are just some of the elements that we want to make sure that you all cover when you're creating your internship program. And we want to make sure that if you have any questions or concerns, on the Nctrc website, we do have a document for agency supervisors that could be very helpful for you as you begin developing your program or as you continue enhancing your program. So the next option that folks we talk about is the equivalency path. And so the equivalency path option is an option for individuals that have also graduated with a bachelor's degree or higher from an accredited college or university. But the difference here is that they may not have a major specifically in recreational therapy. They could, that's not a problem, but this is another option for individuals that may have graduated from a different area. Along with the therapeutic recreation coursework and the supportive coursework, what we're looking for is paid work experience in the field. And so we have a couple of different options here. First, if you have at least 1 year of paid experience or 1,500 hours under the supervision of a CTRS, or you could have 5,000 hours over the course of your career. Any of these options will work, and the only thing that we would require from the applicant is there are 2 different employment verifications. There's an employment verification that would need to be submitted from the employer, as well as if you are submitting the application under the option for 1,500 hours under CTRS, the CTRS would need to fill out a form. And both of those forms are available on our website under publications and forms. So again, this is another option for individuals to submit their application under if they're looking to gain eligibility for the Nctrc exam. Now, both of these options, academic path or equivalency path, both of the experiences, what Nctrc is going to be looking for is that those experiences relate directly to the job analysis, job task areas. And so as I mentioned earlier, we talked about the that student internship guide where folks can identify the different areas that they, the job task areas. And so one of the things that I want to make sure of is both as individuals that might be applying to gain eligibility, or certainly you all that might be the supervisor, what the idea during that internship, during that 14-week, 560-hour internship, what we're looking for is that the student is able to gain exposure to the different job task areas. And so on our website, again at nctrc.org, if you click on CTRS certification and scroll down to Nctrc job analysis, you'll actually get the National Job Analysis Report. And by clicking on that link, you're going to get the actual report, which is, you can definitely take a look at and read at your convenience. Many of you probably have already seen this or probably even have a copy of it. But one of the things to keep in mind is that during the internship, you want to make sure that the students are exposed to each of these 10 job task areas. These 10 job task areas are really the basis of what the field has reported back and said, these are the important job duties that recreational therapists with their CTRS credential will perform. And so we want to make sure that during the internship, the student also has exposure to these 10 areas. And so make sure that you take a look at these and make sure that you embody a lot of these different features during that internship experience. You want to make sure that each week you have some time dedicated to each of these elements. And of course, you're probably going to be reviewing each of these 10 different job tasks throughout the internship. But what the important thing is to keep in mind is that when the applicant submits their application to Nctrc for review, they're going to be asked, were you exposed to each of these 10 job task areas? And if for some reason they, didn't recall the time that you took them to a treatment team meeting or the time that you showed them the assessment tools that are being used at your facility, and they sign off as, no, I never had exposure, that might impact their application and their eligibility to take the exam. So definitely make sure that when you are creating your internship program, make sure that you have set some time aside to incorporate a lot of these features throughout the experience. And as I talked about with that student internship guide, this is what the students are going to have access to. So what you'll want to do is that throughout the experience, when you do have your meetings with the student, you're going to want to make sure that you see, okay, remember we've talked about an assessment today. I want you to jot down that date so that they have this document and that they can refer to that when they submit their application to Nctrc for review. If for a reason that somebody does indicate, no, I never had exposure to assessments, we're going to ask the student to come back to you, the agency supervisor, and have that conversation. Make sure that they understand when it was that they had exposure to that area, so that that way they can feel confident and be able to answer, yes, I've had exposure to this area in order to meet the requirements of that application. So definitely make sure that you incorporate a lot of these different features within the internship experience. And that'll be extremely helpful for the student because again, that is what they're going to be referring to when it comes to the application. The other element to discuss, and we're going to talk a little bit about this in the sense of the exam, but as you all know, for being an agency supervisor, if you're an active CTRS, you were involved in the development of this job analysis. And so Nctrc sent you a survey and you were asked what types of job tasks is it that you perform, as well as what types of knowledge is important to know in order to perform those job duties. And so folks responded back with what we have as the knowledge areas. And again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a few seconds, but I wanted to make sure that I referred you to this document back to that knowledge, the knowledge areas within the job analysis report. So not only are we talking about the job analysis, the job task areas for the internship, but also the professional knowledge domains. And so these 6 knowledge domains is really the basis of the exam. This is the information that you as a CTRS came back to Nctrc and said, this is the information that's very important to know in order to perform those job tasks. So this is the information that we're going to be making sure of is covered so that individuals when they take the exam, they need to know these different 6 areas. These 6 different areas are also the basis of continuing education. So for all of you taking continuing education for Nctrc recertification, Nctrc wants to make sure that as you continue to develop your competencies to recertify, that you're taking education that relates to any of these 6 areas. So if you happen to be working with clients that might need some additional social assessments or some physical assessments, maybe you're working in a physical rehab facility, and you find that, I would like to learn a little bit more about clients that are dealing with traumatic brain injury, for example, and you decide that you want to go to a traumatic brain injury conference. Well, when Nctrc says, how does that relate to the knowledge areas? What we're looking for you to do is take a look at the job analysis knowledge areas. And as you go through and you begin to see the different areas that we have here, you'll see something like, okay, well, of course, something like traumatic brain injury might fall under physical medical disorders, cognitive developmental disorders. So of course, content on that at that conference would apply directly to the knowledge areas. And so once we see that relationship, you'll know that that education will meet the requirements for Nctrc recertification. And so it's just like that. If for some reason you decide to go to education that you're not completely sure of is going to meet the requirements, take a look at this document first. And if for some reason you're still not completely sure, as I mentioned earlier on, we have that continuing education approval process where you can submit the conference agenda, the conference session that you attended, and then we would take a look at that information before recertification and let you know if that education is in fact going to meet the requirements. As you were told earlier, this session today is about continuing your professionalism, making sure that you hold on to your credential. And so if you look down at advancement of the profession, we talk about professionalism, credential maintenance. So this session has already been reviewed for recertification, and we have already pre-approved the content of this session for 1 hour of education. So that's how that continuing education process works. So for all of you that are considering different options when it comes to taking continuing education, please refer right back to this professional and knowledge domains to help you with understanding if that education will meet the requirements for recertification. So a little sidestep away from the actual initial idea of certification, but I wanted to make sure that we talked about professional, the ideas of knowledge areas and how that's going to relate to your recertification. So to jump back, again, these are those 10 job task areas that we're going to want to make sure that you have exposure to, that your students have exposure to during their internship experience. These 10 job tasks are also going to be the 10 job task areas that we're going to look at when it's time for you to recertify with your work experience. And so as individuals may evolve into other positions during your recertification cycle, again, refer right back to the job task areas and make sure that whatever you're doing within your job relates to any of these 10 areas. So an example for myself, I'm the director of credentialing at Nctrc. So I'm not necessarily doing the therapeutic recreation process, that APIDE process, but I am doing awareness and advocacy and professional relationships and responsibilities on a full-time basis. So I'm able to use my hours of awareness and advocacy and professional relationships to recertify every 5 years. So something to keep in mind as you evolve in your career or decide to go to other positions. What we're going to be looking for is 480 hours of exposure to any of these 10 job task areas. It's a little bit different than the internship, because within the internship or within the paid experience, applicants are required to have exposure to all the areas. As a CTRS, we're only looking that you have some exposure to any of these areas. So there's a little bit of a difference, but again, knowing that the job analysis report is good for you all as agency supervisors when speaking with your students, as well as important for you as you maintain your credential as a CTRS and as you recertify every 5 years. So again, getting back to the internship and the work experience, we want to make sure that all the information, of course, follows the therapeutic recreation process, and that, again, the applicants are all exposed to those job task areas. And really, we want to make sure that that experience allows them to develop more skills so that they gain more competencies in the therapeutic recreation process. So once the applicants are ready, we encourage you as supervisors or certainly as new applicants to go ahead and complete the professional eligibility application process. Now that process is available on the Nctrc website. When you visit the Nctrc website, you'll go to My Nctrc login, and you'll have an opportunity to update your information and create a profile. You'll submit the professional eligibility application, and you'll have all of your official academic transcripts sent directly from the registrar to nctrc@nctrc.org, right to our office. Once the actual transcripts are received, we will go ahead and begin the review process. Once the application is submitted along with the fee and the transcripts, we will begin the review process. If a student has an unofficial transcript, unfortunately, we will not be able to accept that, but as long as the university themselves are able to email the official transcript, that works out much better, and it certainly expedites the process. One of the things I'd like to discuss really quickly about the payments for the application, Nctrc is really proud to offer a couple of different corporate social responsibility programs. We have both the scholarship program as well as a hardship fee waiver program. And this is an option for all applicants, either for professional eligibility or for recertification, or for individuals that are maybe going through a hardship during their renewal cycle. On the Nctrc website, and let me just make sure I get back to that for you. When we get to the Nctrc website, Right on the home page, you'll see an option called Financial Assistance. When you visit that link, there's both information on the Nctrc Scholarship Program, as well as the Nctrc Hardship Fee Waiver Program. So with the scholarship program, if you're taking coursework for either eligibility or for recertification, you can submit this application along with all the items that are required for consideration. We have been really excited and happy to let folks know that we have awarded a lot of money in scholarships. It's certainly something to think about as you pursue different academic programs. As long as, also wanted to make sure I mentioned that hardship fee waiver program. So that's another option for an individual that might be going through some hardship and are unable to submit maybe even your renewal fee or your exam fee, or even perhaps your recertification fee. So please take a look at both of these options if it is something that you are interested in looking further into. So for all of you that have already completed the application, we went ahead, you submitted your application, and once you submit the application, and as I mentioned, the fee or and the transcripts, it will take probably about 4 weeks for us to get a review completed. And once we complete the review, you'll get an email regarding the status of your application. And so the review process, again, will initially begin once you submit your official transcripts from the university. If for some reason we need more information from you, we will let you know. We'll send you an email within the application. If you haven't heard from us in enough time, you can always email the office to check on the status of your application. But once your application is approved, you'll receive an email regarding the exam registration process and how to schedule your appointment for the testing window. And so again, we're going to go back to, as you start thinking about submitting your application, or you as an agency supervisor, as you start, mentoring your student, they're probably going to be having some questions about how to best prepare for the exam. And so definitely knowing those 6 knowledge areas is key. Those 6 knowledge areas, as I mentioned, were the areas that CTRS came and said, this is what is important for folks to know in order to practice recreational therapy. And so as long as you are able to provide that guidance to the student, and certainly having the student review those 6 different knowledge areas, they'll be able to see that right in the exam content outline. And so as you look at the exam content outline, this is a breakdown of how much is actually going to be, how much is going to pertain to each section of those knowledge areas on the exam. And as you can see, a majority of the exam, over 50% of it, deals with the actual therapeutic recreation process. So a lot of what the student is going to be doing through their internship experience is what they're going to see on the actual exam. So again, you all are the best ones to really be able to help and mentor the students as they start preparing to take the Nctrc exam. And so the exam itself is offered every other month for 1 full month. We have an exam actually going on right now during the month of November in 2021, but we will have exams again beginning in the new year every month for 1 full month. Once an applicant decides that there's a certain window that they would like to apply for, we encourage the students, they can submit their application whenever they like after they're done with their coursework. And then once they're approved, they can decide when they want to take the exam. It's a little bit different than it once used to be. It's a 2-step process. So for applicants, they first is submitting the professional eligibility application, be awarded eligibility, and then the second part is deciding which exam window they'd like to sit for. And so what we encourage is certainly, again, submitting the application, and when one is ready to take the exam, they would want to submit the exam registration fee before, about a month before, a couple of weeks before. We actually even have the application, the registration process open throughout the month. So if one decides, maybe it's January 15th and somebody says, I think I'd like to take the exam this month, they can certainly sign up for the exam at any point during that month. So, it all depends on your timing. It depends on availability, because one of the other nice things that we've been able to offer is the idea of doing test center examinations, or you're also able to do live remote proctoring examinations. So the exam itself, it's a 150 multiple choice question exam for 3 hours. If a candidate does require testing accommodations, this is a feature that we can certainly review. NCTRC has the options to offer extended time, double time, perhaps a reader, a marker, sign language interpreter for the instructions, a separate room, any of these types of things, some modifications to the computer if need be. As long as you have documentation from your professional, medical professional or from the university, we can definitely review that as an option. The exam is also available in English, Spanish for Latin Americas, and Canadian French. And so we're also able to offer the practice exam in those 3 different languages. So at the time of registration, once an individual decides that they'd like to take the exam and they submit the exam fee and the application, they get, once they have that registration eligibility, they are able to go to the website and pick the date, the time, the location of when they'd like to take the exam, as well as which language they'd like to take the exam in. Once the exam is completed, the individual will get results right away. It'll come right up on the screen and let them know if they were successful when they took the exam. And as I mentioned earlier, we are able to offer the exam at both a testing center or through live remote proctoring. So again, PSI is the exam company that we use to administer the exam, and they have over 600 testing centers around the country. But we have found that the idea that, for a lot of individuals, it might be difficult to get to some of these sites. So the idea of live remote proctoring is an option. As long as you're in a secure location and you have compatible technology, you will be able to go ahead and do the live remote proctoring. It is a great way to be able to take the exam, in a more convenient manner. So these are definitely nice new options that we've been able to offer through the past few months. And so when it comes to exam preparation, we definitely want to make sure that individuals are prepared before they even go on to take this exam. And so again, you as mentors are going to be crucial in this. We want to make sure that the students understand that their education is really the most important tool. But if they want further tools, again, on the NCTRC website, right under exam, you'll have exam preparation tools. And so as you scroll down, there's a couple of different features that I want to highlight. Again, we have the exam content outline, which I reviewed with you a little bit ago. You'll be able to see that content outline broken down to exactly what we found within those knowledge areas, as well as a further breakdown of what content the individual should begin reviewing. And again, a lot of this information they would have learned right from their educational program, but you as a mentor, as their supervisor, may want to also review some of this with them. So again, these are another great document that is helpful to have, and it is available on the NCTRC website. The NCTRC exam reference list is another great feature. I want to make sure that I show you that as well. The exam reference list is actually a listing of all the books and resources that were used to develop the exam. And so again, for many of the students, they're coming from an academic program where they might actually have all of these books. But you, again, as the mentor that have all taken and passed the exam, you may actually have some of these references as well. So you might want to be able to help them with sharing them, or at least reviewing some of that information with the candidate. NCTRC also has a practice exam, as I mentioned a little bit ago. The practice exam is available. It's the information to register for the practice exam is available on the NCTRC website, but it is housed on the PSI website. And so you can access this exam for up to 48 hours. The total would be a $24.95 exam. We oftentimes encourage students to maybe gather together with other friends or other individuals that might be taking the exam and maybe doing it together. And that might be a nice way to be able to share some of the resources and different study habits that ones may have. The other item to keep in mind here is that once you take the exam can be you can go through the exam again. It will be the same 90 questions, but it is randomized. And the one nice thing about it, many nice things, but one of the features I want to highlight is that if you get an answer incorrect, it will give you the correct answer as well as the resource. So that's also very helpful as an individual practicing for this exam. That way you can refer right back to the source that that information came from. And again, as I mentioned earlier, this exam is offered in English, Spanish, and Spanish for Latin Americas and Canadian French. We also have a couple of sample questions available on that same link under exam preparation tools, just so that folks can get an idea of some more additional questions. And there is no charge for those sample questions. So again, this is probably one of the best ways to really help with preparing for the exam. So now that all of you have taken and passed the exam, and for many of you already have your CTRS credential, congratulations. And certainly at this point, now it's all about maintaining your certification. You want to make sure that on an annual basis, you continue to submit your annual maintenance application and fee. During that annual maintenance, what we're really going to be looking for is for you to submit the answers to your eligibility questions. As many of you may know from the very beginning, when you gained eligibility, there are 3 very specific eligibility questions that are required to be answered on an annual basis. So really, when you maintain your certification and you submit that annual renewal, it's about making sure you complete those eligibility questions and submit the renewal fee. On an annual basis, NCTRC does not look at how much education, continuing education you've already accrued, or how much work experience you have already accrued. That is not a requirement on an annual basis, but at the time of recertification, which you would do every 5 years, and for some of you, you've already gone through one cycle or maybe a couple, or you will be coming up on your first recertification cycle. Recertification, again, the main purpose of recertification is to make sure that you continue your professional competencies in therapeutic recreation. It is your responsibility to collect and maintain all of your education materials over that 5-year cycle. So when you do attend a conference and you confirm that the education relates to one of the knowledge areas, you're going to hold on to that transcript. And now, one of the nice things with the NCTRC portal is that you can actually upload that continuing education document directly to your account, to the recertification application within your account. That way, it's a nice storage area. You'll have it there in case it's needed at the time of recertification. And so again, that's the main reason we have to recertify every 5 years. And again, it is your responsibility to hold on to all of that documentation. At the time of recertification, and you might start thinking about this possibly a year before you're due, is that there are 2 different options that you may select in order to recertify. Option 1 is making sure that the continuing education and professional work experience are met, or deciding that you would like to take the exam. And either option is a good option. So option 1, continuing education, what we're looking for is 50 hours of continuing education and 480 hours of work experience. And as I spent some time on it before, the continuing education, we want to make sure that those 50 hours relates directly to the knowledge areas of the job analysis report. The professional experience, we want to make sure that you have 480 hours of work that relates directly to the job task areas. And so those 2 components within the job analysis report are the areas that not only new applicants are going to be reviewing, but you as a CTRS will be required to review as well. And so you're going to choose which option is best for you. And with continuing education, there's a whole host of different ways that you can obtain continuing education, including conferences, webinars, in-services, academic courses at universities, presenting information, publishing information, and internship supervision. So for all of you that are going to be doing internship supervision, there's a document on the NCTRC website that, that you would want to fill out. It's called the Internship Supervision for Continuing Education application. You'll want to fill that out and hold on to it. The application itself just requires you to give us some information on how you were able to expose the student to the job task areas. And when you submit, when you hold on to that application, when you submit that to NCTRC at the time of recertification, you may be awarded up to 5 hours. And you can actually supervise up to 3 different students during your 5-year recertification cycle. So definitely something to consider as we've reviewed all the updated internship requirements, making sure that you've established a great program. And then once you have a student, just fill out that form, hold on to it. And again, that's 5 hours of education for your recertification. Option 2 is the re-examination option. And again, I mentioned that there are folks that do take the exam every 5 years, which is just fine. But at the time of recertification, please consider the option of gaining a specialization area designation. We're really excited to be able to offer these 7 different areas of specialization. Hopefully by the end of the year, we're going to be closing in on about 100 candidates that have this additional designation. And the newer areas that we've introduced are adaptive sports and recreation, as well as pediatrics. So one of the things to keep in mind is that as you begin looking at your 5-year recertification cycle, and you begin looking at how much education you've already obtained, and certainly the education that you have obtained thus far, if it is specific to any of these 7 areas, you may want to consider gaining that extra designation. Because almost like full circle, going back to the beginning of the session, we talk about our main mission. And our main mission is to really make sure that we protect the public with those that are receiving recreational therapy services. What better way to protect the individuals that you're providing services to than by having additional education in these different areas? So if you're fortunate to be employed at a place where maybe you're working with geriatric patients, you know, to have that additional education that you've already gone to these different conferences, you continue working with that group of individuals, why not be able to have that extra designation? So that way the consumers know that not only have you met these entry-level requirements, but you've gone on to get additional education so that the services you're providing are the best services available as a recreational therapist. So definitely keep that in mind as you think about the education you want to attend. And then certainly obtaining that additional designation. And so this designation is available to individuals at the time of recertification. When you're due to recertify, there's a separate application to complete. So if you have any questions or concerns about this process, definitely get in touch with Nctrc. So that way we can make sure that we provide to you the right form to fill out and then be able to give you the proper information when it comes to the education that's needed. And so, in conclusion, what I want to make sure that I cover today is making sure that you all take the time to invest in yourself as both an agency supervisor, as a recreational therapist, or somebody that is looking to gain their CTRS credential. Making sure that all of this is really about making sure that the public is protected and that they're getting the best services possible. Once you become certified, or if you're already certified, make sure you get involved in the profession. We want to make sure that we continue growing the field and make sure that we bring these great ideas that you might have to build the profession even bigger than it is now and even better. Be driven to continuous learning and improvement of your skills. So again, going back to the main mission, we're here to protect the public. We're here to make sure that our consumers are getting the best services possible. And what better way to do that is than to continue to grow, continue to learn and improve our skills. These are opportunities for us that we can learn from not only the students that we're going to be supervising, but the colleagues that we work with. And so make sure you take advantage of all of these opportunities. Use us as a resource. We have a lot of great marketing materials available on our website. We're proud to have just published a couple of different profile study pamphlets available again on the Nctrc website. So a lot of great information that you can use as a CTRS, somebody that's looking to gain certification. We have a couple of great marketing tools, marketing brochures that will help individuals really understand what Nctrc is all about and the importance of credentialing. And so definitely use whatever resources we have available on our website. And then for all of you that have worked so hard to get to this point, be proud of and maintain your credential. For those of you that are looking to get CTRSs to get your CTRS credential, continue learning, continue to be proud of it. And definitely once you obtain it, maintain that credential. As all of you know, we require that renewal, that recertification, but it's all about us becoming better at our craft. So, I want to just say thank you to all of you for being here with me. And certainly if you have questions, feel free to contact Nctrc. And I look forward to seeing you all one day really soon. Thank you all.
Okay, let me get my screen up here. I'm going to give everybody in the chat box, I gave everybody a link to a SurveyMonkey site. And Robin, I'm going to take over your screen for a minute. Just let me figure out what I'm doing here. And I have to say, listening to your presentation, Robin, I am always amazed at how much and how well trained you guys are. I think it's wonderful that this particular profession is that well trained. It's really impressive, all that you do to make that happen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to share my screen now. Is it up, I hope?
Yes, looks great.
So you can get in touch with Robin at rmcneal at nctrc.org, or you can go directly to their website at www.nctrc.org. The code word for today is certified. How surprising is
Love
that?
it. I love it.
This session has been approved for a 1 hour NTCR credit or 0.1 CEO, 1 contact hour. You can follow the link that's in the chat box. It'll take you right to that survey. You fill it out real quick and you can get that credit. We'll send you a completion after that. I do want to remind that somebody has the chat box. Hold on, let me get to the chat box there. All right, and I do want to remind people that we have finished our Therapeutic Recreation Institute and lunchtime sessions for the year. Yay! So we get a couple of months off, and then we're going to start again in January with the lunchtime sessions. But I also want to let you know that we are planning a live 54 Therapeutic Recreation Institute is going to be live in 2022, or Dan Hendy is not my name. And that's going to be October 5 through 7. And Robin, I hope you can join us for us. And that's going to be right in State College, PA. And I am psyched. So
That's
I want to make
awesome.
sure that you